Good morning. Welcome to Multifamily Unplugged, the #1 Saturday morning radio show for the real estate investor, broker, and property manager professionals. I'm sure that anybody listening in fits into that category in one way or another. You know, this is where we dive into raw, unscripted conversation about multifamily real estate, about property management, and the current events that affect your everyday business. The topics that deserve in-depth, no fluff conversation, straight factual data that you can turn off the show and start to use immediately. Good morning. I'm Mike Morawski. I'm joined by my co-host, C. Gordon Moose, who we proudly call Moose. Say hey, Carl.
How you doing, guys? How are you, Mike?
Good morning. Good to hear you. Hey, we provide raw, unscripted conversation. It becomes spontaneous and real. That's how the real estate business is, right? It's spontaneous, and we need to think fast on our feet. So how do we get there? And how do we engage in conversation? Well, that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to get engaged in some conversation and work our way through some current events. Well, it's Halloween. Crazy how fast the year's gone by this year. But don't get spooked, right? Even though 2020 may have scared you, or not been what you had planned it to be, you still have an opportunity to make choices and change all of that. You know what? Have you set goals for 2021? You know, let me ask you a question. Why don't you just get a jump start on 2021 today? You know what? You've got 14 months to the door before it starts. So it gives you 2 extra months to make that year next year even better than what you would have maybe expected. But what we're going to do today is we're going to help you put some things into planning for next year for yourself, because we're going to talk about additional income and how we create additional income. But I want you to remember that this week's show is sponsored by the 90-Day Challenge program. That's right. Moose and I rolled out a program at the end of the Multifamily Global Summit, a 90-day coaching program that will help you get focused, set your goals, and execute properly as we go into 2021. Remember, any questions this morning, throw them in the chat. Let's light that chat up. If you go to YouTube to watch this again or listen to some other episodes, please like it and subscribe to the channel. Listen, this week we're joined by Todd Thorpe. Todd is going to talk to us today about engaging in additional streams of income. Let me tell you a little bit about Todd this morning. Todd is well respected in the multifamily and telecom industries with over 30 years of experience. For 14 years, he's held various leadership positions with Charter Communications. When he grew the multifamily sales and Midwest markets by 30%. In early 2020, Todd left Charter and became vice president of the MDU Consulting Group, a national firm representing property owners, management companies, and real estate developers, along with homeowners associations. As a telecom advisor to the multifamily industry, Todd teaches operators how to negotiate lucrative cable and Wi-Fi contracts that generate ancillary revenue and other streams of revenue for their properties. Todd, good morning. Would you say hi to our listeners?
Good morning, guys. Happy Halloween.
Hey, listen, I got a first question for you, right? I want to know, you have any spooky stories? Today's Halloween. We're hitting the door right on Goblin Day. Any spooky stories for us?
Real estate related or just in general?
Well,
probably real estate.
Take your pick, Todd.
Well, so I owned a single family property, gosh, probably 20 years ago. And, I bought just a small little single family property, was going to kind of take on the world, right, in investing, and didn't have any experience. Well, I got rid of the tenant and I went in to clean out the unit, the house, and to turn it. And the tub, Mike, was black. It was like something was growing in it, man. So yeah, that was pretty scary. That was pretty spooky, and it
Did you clean it or replace it?
I don't want to say what I did, but yeah, Yeah, we almost pretty much had to bomb the place. Yeah, it was a mess. So I guess lesson learned there, right?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Carl, how about you? Any spooky stories?
Just real quick. One day we were walking through a building. It was a big building, and there were a whole bunch of us, and we were in the basement. And I was leading the crowd. I had a flashlight, and I walked in, and there was the outline of a cat that laid down and died, and literally had disintegrated. And it looked like the outline of a cat.
Wow.
It scared the crap out of me. And one of the people I was with was a real pain in the rear end. So when she got close, I shined the flashlight on it real quickly, and she just about jumped out of her skin. It was just
That's crazy. I had that happen, but with real people one time, right? I'm showing a foreclosure to an investor, and it's a small multi-unit. It's a 4-unit deal. And we walk to the top floor, and we get up there, and I say, wow, what's that? Did you hear that? And all of a sudden, this little kid comes running out of a room, and there was a homeless family that was living in there.
Squatting or something.
Yeah, it was crazy. So we were able to, it turned out good though. We were able to find those people a place to go stay and live. And I don't know whatever happened to them, but boy, that scares the heck out of you when you're in a vacant place and something jumps out at you.
Sure.
Enough of this. So listen, Todd, well, how about some background on you? Why don't you tell us about yourself? And
Sure. Yeah. And Mike, thank you again for the opportunity to be on and the great introduction. Grew up in the Midwest. So up by, you guys and Carl up by Chicago, I grew up a small little town, Rockton, Illinois, and went to college up in Wisconsin, came home, started working in the cable industry back in '89 and doing public access programming, right? Kind of like Wayne's World. And so that was kind of my first foray into cable. Met my wife. She worked at the same cable company. We've been together ever since. And I just, I fell in love with that business, the technology, and it was still kind of growing back then and never left. And then I went to go work for Charter Communications, and they're now the second largest cable company behind Comcast, and spent about 20 years in focusing primarily in the multifamily sector. So in the cable world, you have single family, which are your SFUs, they call them, and then you have your MDUs, which are your multi-dwelling units. So I focused most of my cable career on the sales side in multifamily and negotiating right of entry and bulk agreements on behalf of Charter with property owners, with people listening on the show, investors who own multifamily, and really kind of helped grow that department. And, it grew. And then about 4 years ago, my wife and we relocated down to Greenville, South Carolina, got sick of shoveling snow, and we absolutely love it. We have 2 kids, twins, boy and a girl. They're graduated from college, so they're kind of out, and we're becoming empty nesters now. So
nice. Good for you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. When you say you were in the sales end of it, does that mean that you went door to door in an apartment complex and sold cable services to the tenant?
No. So that would be more like direct sales. We did have a direct sales department, and a lot of cable companies still have direct sales today where you actually go door to door. So when I say sales, our job was to negotiate the agreement with the owner. So the sale in our case was a contract, getting a contract with the property owner. But we did that virtually. Most everything we did was virtual, on the phone, computer. It's amazing what you can do. And as technology has evolved over the years, and your sleuthing skills get better and better and tracking down owners. And this was even before LinkedIn, and you had all of that at your disposal. You would just reach out to the property owner and search them out. Property management companies who represent the property owner, mobile home owners, traditional owners, senior properties, your gated communities, the single family, but they're private communities. All of those are by definition multifamily in our world.
So why, as an owner, and I, own a few thousand units,
Yep.
why do I want to negotiate a cable contract or a data contract with, any provider?
Good question. So the two main reasons are protecting your investment. So number one, as a property owner or a management company who represents an investor or property owners, you want to protect that investment. And think of it this way: you're having Charter, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, Frontier, wherever your properties are located. The provider is accessing your residents and selling services to them, right? Let's say on a retail basis, and you can also buy bulk cable and internet. We can talk about that in a second too, from the providers. But at the core, you want to protect your investment, and you don't want to allow the provider to just literally have free access and free reign to your property. It's private property, and you want to make sure that they are there with your permission. And that's where the education talks comes in. We talked a little bit about this before the show started. There's a lot of education that needs to take place because there's still a lot of owners out there who don't understand that they should have these agreements in place. It's the old, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you want to make sure you have this agreement in place with the provider, because what that agreement does is it sets up rules. It sets up how they can access the property. What lines do they have access to, right? Do they have access to the coax? Do they have access to the phone lines? All of that infrastructure is yours as the property owner. It's not owned by the cable company, right? They have some of the outside plant and the infrastructure going up to the property, but it's your property. And think of it this way: if you have an interstate going through your town, or you have a highway going through your town, and you just let the cars go through, they wear down those roads, right? And you eventually have to repair it. Put up a toll booth and you collect a toll, and now pretty soon you can generate revenue with all of that traffic. Telecom contracts are kind of the same. So there's the financial benefit as well. There's the securing of the asset to say, all right, cable company, I'm going to allow you to come on my property to provide service, but it's going to be under my terms. And I mean, not that it's one way, you want to come up with a win-win, but I'll give you access to my property, but we're going to sign a contract. There's going to be language in the contract, and this is what we're going to do, right? And then from there, not only do you want to have that agreement, then you want to negotiate lucrative terms, and that's where the toll comes in. And there's 4 different ways that you can make money.
It's so interesting. You know, that happened to me actually when I had an 18-unit building, and literally in the course of about a week, for whatever reason, I wasn't down there for about a week. I come back and there's literally 6 different satellites on my building.
Yeah.
6 satellites. There was cable hanging everywhere, and I'm like, what in the heck? I couldn't believe it, right? And so they just came in, and there was cable everywhere. It was across my roof. They didn't care. And I was like, what the heck? That was a big deal. And so after that, we worked with one cable company. It was part of our lease. If you wanted cable, you had to go through us.
It's an interesting point. Sorry, Todd. Carl, that's an interesting point. We always learn as property owners or managers, we always learn by our experience in the business, right? So that happened to me. The same thing that happened to you early on in my, investing career. What I wound up doing was writing a clause in the lease, and I go over it with the tenant. When I move the tenant in, I say, hey, look, you know what? You can't just throw any dish up here. I have service in here, or this is what's existing. you can bring cable in, but no satellite dish. What's really interesting about that is that a lot of times the investor thinks a value add is something that he has to go in and put a new kitchen in or new bathrooms in the unit, when in a lot of cases it's a matter of taking down some old cable wire or satellite wires on the sides of the building, taking satellites down and cleaning up the appearance from the outside, right? So I'm sorry, Todd, go ahead.
No, and that's a great point. I'm glad you guys brought that up, because that's part of the value and the reason why you want to have that agreement. Not only does it give the provider literally the right of way, you're giving them an easement. That's literally what you're doing. You're giving them an easement, an encumbrance to come on your property. I know a lot of people don't like the word easement because I all of a sudden start getting kind of, spooky, talking about scary, right? Start getting scared, right? Oh no, I'm going to give you an easement. What does that mean? Oh, no, I'm stuck. But think of it that way too. There's wiring hanging all over the place. And now you have the ability to say, wait a minute, cable company, time out. I'm going to let you be here, but let's play nice here. Let's clean the place up a little bit. These lock boxes, those metal boxes on the side of the building, they're busted open and people are stealing cable left and right. Let's clean the place up a little bit so we have a nice looking asset. It's presentable from the outside as well as the inside, because at the end of the day, as an investor, as a property owner, your number one goal is to rent those units out, to be at 100% occupancy. And then the second is to keep them, to retain them so they don't go someplace else. And the best way it's not the best way. One of the best ways to do it is to have a property that they want to stay and having valuable services a la cable, internet, etc. keeps them there. One of the first things they do is when they go in and they check their bars and see, okay, can I get a signal in your building? Or do you have internet here? Or who's the provider? They ask those questions.
Yeah, interesting. And so much of this business is driven on curb appeal, right?
Yeah.
You can lose a tenant or an investor in the first 30 seconds when they pull up on a property and say, oh, what a mess. Look at that, and it's factual, right? Hey, one of the things
Mike, or also a buyer, if you're looking to sell your building, we would look at that. We would go and look and say, this building's a mess.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. But now the other side is if you're a buyer and you've got that vision, see, here's what I like, what we're going to talk about today is creating additional income and revenue streams, right? So I have always, and Carl, this about me, I love to think outside the box and create additional streams of income on a property, right? So whether it be parking or whether it be cable or whether it be a vending machine in the laundry room, how do we create extra income? And Todd, you mentioned 4 ways of doing that. Yep. Would you cover those? Yep.
There are 4 with telecom contracts. In addition to the ones you just mentioned, the laundry, the waste, the snowplow agreements. All of those are opportunities for an owner to generate revenue. You should be looking at ways to squeeze, pennies out, right? There are 4 ways with telecom agreements. The number one and the most lucrative are what are called door fees. And those are one-time upfront payments, and it's per door for the property. So using a 100-unit property, I always kind of just use that just to make math easy. So if you have a 100-unit property, and this, by the way, would apply what I'm going to mention, whether you have a 20-unit mobile home park or you have a 200-unit apartment complex, student housing. All of these rules apply, or all these ways to make money. So the door fees are upfront one-time payments. So if you had a 100-unit property and the provider, so the payments come from the provider, they're going to write you a check let's say it's $100 a door is what you negotiate. It's always a per door fee that you negotiate. That's $10,000. You're going to get a $10,000 check from the cable company or the phone provider, or could be both. If you're going to let them both on the property, now it's $20,000, right? And you're going to get that check, depending on the contract, could be 30, 60, 90 days after you sign your contract.
So let me ask you this,
check's going to
Todd.
show up.
Let me ask you this. If I go and I buy today a new 100-unit complex,
Yep.
and they already have a current contract in place with a cable provider, can I go back to that cable provider and renegotiate a contract as a new owner, or how does that work?
Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. You have to look at the contract and see when the contract is going to expire. And if you're within, a lot of providers will start looking at renewals on contracts 12 to 24 months out before that initial term gets ready to expire. If you're kind of within that window, yeah, you have some leverage, and then you can reach out to the provider and start to negotiate a new agreement. If you have a contract that is beyond that, 3, 4, 5, 7 years, owner just signed a new contract, and then they sold the property, which does happen. It's not that uncommon. Then the likelihood that you'd be able to do that is pretty small, with the exception of, and it's the fourth way I'm going to talk about making money, is bulk. So if you take a property that does not have bulk cable and or internet service, which is you buying it from the provider and then offering it as an amenity at a markup on your property. If you add that service during the initial term of a contract, most providers will negotiate a new contract with you and pay you the door fee, so you can get it. So if you have a property that you just bought and there's no bulk service, but there is a right of entry easement on it, and that previous owner got a door fee, you come along, you buy it, and say there's 8 years left on that contract. If you add bulk service to it, yeah, you can negotiate a door fee, and they will most likely pay it.
Okay.
But if you don't know that up front, which is what we're doing here today and educating people, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know to ask.
Right.
I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that. I mean, I'm sitting here going, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
I had no idea about that.
I literally, a client of ours, 48 unit property, and they just bought it. And so they came to me, and I reached out to the provider, and it's the previous owner had a contract. Previous owner got a door fee, and they're looking at adding bulk service to it. And there's probably about 6 years left on the contract. And the provider said, yeah, sure, you're going to add bulk service. So we're negotiating a new contract for them. And,
Wow.
and then those owners will get, and that's a 48 unit property. Those owners will get a door fee out of it.
So let me ask you this. Are the principles that we're talking about today, can somebody in a 3-unit or a 4-unit building do the same thing?
No, usually, I mean, probably, 20 units is about the threshold, because it kind of goes both ways, where the provider needs to get something out of it too. And the larger the property, the more value it is for the provider. But if you had, like, say, a 15-unit property, and let's say then you had, you got a portfolio, and you got a small 15 unit, and then you have a 30, you got a 50, you got other ones, that smaller property, economics of scale, you can probably bring into the deal, because you're going to not only do that one, you're going to try to do the 6 other properties that they have. Sure. But just a standalone property, if it's under 20, again, it depends on the type of property, where it's at. Never say never. And you definitely want to reach out to, and we've done it before. But the odds start to go down, especially something that's under 10 units. And in the multifamily, in the cable world, multifamily properties not only have a definition of vertical, which I mentioned, apartment, student, mobile home, etc., size too. They typically, I know at Charter, they didn't count anything that was under 4 units as a multifamily. If it was under 4 units, it's a single family dwelling.
Great. So
Yeah,
we
that's
know
true
that
from a
number one
banking-
is, oh, go ahead, Carl. I'm
I was
sorry.
going to say that's true from a banking perspective too. So that's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
We know that number one is a door fee. So what's number two?
So number 2 is revenue share. And those are going to be ongoing payments for the term of the contract. So you got door fee, one time upfront. And before we jump off of door fees can range anywhere from, I've seen them as low as $50 a door, and I've seen them as high as $400 a door. $400 a door. Wow. So and part of that depends on your negotiation skills, the type of the property, the size of the property. But if you don't ask and you just take the first deal you get, and the cable company offers you $75 a door. Oh yeah, that sounds great. Great. I'll sign here. And they would have paid you, I just went back to a provider and they sent me an offer. I'm negotiating for a client, and they sent me an offer for $150 a door. And I said, nah, that's not going to work. And we're getting $250. So I ended up getting them an extra $100. And, had I just settled on the $150, I would have lost out. So, so door fees, number one. The second is revenue share. And those are going to be ongoing payments, and gets a little tricky, but I'll kind of use just some basic math to illustrate the point. So revenue share is based on the penetration or the number of subscribers per service that a provider has. So they want video customers, they want internet customers, and they want phone customers, right? There's still landline customers out there. Comcast, Charter, AT&T, they still sell landline service, even though we know that, most of it is the cell, right? So, and let's say they have 40 using a 100-unit property. Let's say they have 40 video customers. They have 60 internet customers, and they have 10 phone customers, landline phone customers. They'll pay you a percentage of the monthly recurring revenue based on the service. So let's say if your penetration on video is, usually they give you a range, 40 customers, they may pay you 4%. The internet, 60 customers, they may pay you 6% of the revenue. Phone, they may give you 2%. And then you will receive those checks from the provider for the term of the contract. Most revenue share checks are quarterly. I've seen them monthly, but typically they're on a quarterly basis. And you'll just get those checks, kind of like a passive investor gets an income stream. It's passive investing, really, when you think about it. In a way, it's a passive income stream.
It's interesting, and it's reoccurring. So it's, as long as you have that contract in place, tenant moves out, a new tenant moves in, it kicks back up again, right? So
yep.
Always say that there's a couple of ways you can make money. You can exchange time for money, hours for dollars, right. Or you can get reoccurring income, where it's that passive income stream. And this is like selling a life insurance policy that gets renewed every year, right?
Yeah, kind of. But that also, what the providers say, it get the owner's skin in the game, because now you're going to want to promote that, and they might even require, all right, we're going to require exclusive marketing. The cable provider will say the agreement's going to require exclusive marketing. So you, owner, are going to be required to exclusively market the the dish service or the cable service or the provider. So when a tenant moves in, you'll want to promote them. If you have a leasing office, you might want to put signage up in your move in, move out kit, your leasing packet, you're going to want to put that information in there. But it's to your benefit as the owner, because the more customers, the higher the percentage goes up, the more money you're going to make too. So if you're actively helping to promote the service, which you want to promote it anyway, then you're going to make more money.
Sure.
So
Awesome.
Mike, I know you're going to ask for question number 3, but if anybody out there's got a chat, put it up in the chat. If you got a question for Todd as we go, just, we'll get to those. So go ahead, Mike. I know you're going to ask what's number 3.
Yeah, right. You know me, don't you, Carl?
Yeah.
All right, Todd, what's number 3?
So number 3 is not really it's more of an indirect way. So it's not an actual cash payment that you would see, but it's a way to save money. And that is on courtesy or complimentary services. So the owner should also be asking for, when you negotiate your contract, free cable and free internet on site, not at your house. Those days are gone where an owner could say, yeah, I want free cable for me and for my brother-in-law and this and that. And back in the day, cable companies gave those out like anything, right? So just like giving out Halloween candy tonight, they gave that stuff away. Nowadays, courtesy or complimentary services, most providers require that they be used on site, on premise, but you can use them for, if you have a maintenance person living on site, instead of them having to pay their cable bill and internet bill, that could be a benefit that you use that to hire a maintenance person, a leasing manager. If you have a common room, if you have a clubhouse, if you have a internet by the pool, if you have laundry, you have a business center, whatever, you should be negotiating and requesting, and in some cases demanding, as part of this contract, I want free cable and free internet. At least one account you should be trying to at least get, one or the other or both. And if you got a really big property, several hundred units, I would ask for a couple. Again, if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. They're not going to just automatically give it to you. All of this stuff, guys, the cable, and trust me, I know, because I used to work for the provider. And that's one thing, I have the experience of working on both sides, representing owners and working for the provider. So I know what you can and can't do and what you can ask for and what you probably would get denied. So you got to ask, you won't get it.
Well, that's like that old saying from the great book that says, knock and it shall be open, ask and you shall receive. You don't know, right? Unless you get it. So.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. But that can add up too. If you just do the math, average cable bill can be a couple $100 a month over time. That's going to save you a lot of money, or it'll save your maintenance person. Maybe you already paid their bill, or you have internet in your clubhouse, or you give that to your leasing manager.
Here's what I want the listener to clue in on this morning, is that this is just one way of creating additional revenue in your multifamily property. Yep. And this is another reason that multifamily makes so much more sense than single family. So for our listeners who are in the process of making that turn from small single family or small multifamily into larger multifamily, this is just another reason how you can get creative and think outside the box. And if you can do it with cable, what else can you do it with? So, and I just throw that out there because I want people to think, right? A lot of times we kind of take things for granted and we don't think things through enough. So, so number 4?
Number 4, drum roll, is bulk service. And bulk, I'm an analogy guy. So you go to Costco, you go to Sam's Club, and you buy toilet paper in bulk. When toilet paper was a shortage, right? You wanted to stock up on it. it's that same concept. So what you do as a property owner, you buy cable and or internet from the provider in bulk at a wholesale rate. So you're going to buy it 50 to 75% below the retail rate. You're now going to essentially buy that, and it's not based on occupancy. You do have to buy it for the full number of units, whether you're occupied or not. So using my 100-unit property again, the provider may charge you $25 a unit for video and $25 for internet. So that's $50. And that's probably even a little high. You could probably even get it down even lower, but just using that as an example. So say $50 a month, you're going to pay the provider for that every single month. You're going to write out a check to the cable company, but then you now can take that and offer it as an amenity, and you can then mark it up. And you can't just because there are rules that don't allow you to just outright resell the service, because there are, you're not a franchised cable operator. So that you can't do, but it's perfectly legal to charge an amenity fee or a technology fee or add it to your rent. You can recoup that cost as long as you do it that way, and you're perfectly fine. So you can then charge 10, 20. You don't want to go all the way back up to the retail rate, because then it's kind of defeating the purpose, but you can add 10, 20, 30, $40 a month per unit. And now you can get the money back that you're paying out in cable, plus putting money into your pocket, right? So, and the other benefit is not only financial in a direct way, but financial in an indirect way, is you can advertise free cable or free internet or free Wi-Fi at your property. And now your property, Garden Apartments, that has these amenities looks better than Meadow Grove, down the street.
So some units you could actually give away cable to the tenant, and you could choose not to mark it up even, and just use it as a marketing expense. Just like any other of your advertising and marketing expenses, but you can add a fee on top of it, recoup your investment back, and then get some additional income. So bulk service is still relatively, even though it's been around forever, we've always been in the bulk cable business, in the bulk internet business. And especially with advancements in Wi-Fi and adding Wi-Fi on your property, which is an actual Wi-Fi system where you'd put access points in, and that way when the residents walking around your property, they just log right in with a password, just like you would in a house, or if you just got your own modem. And that's kind of the same way. You either have internet where you're going to buy from the cable provider, and they're just going to put a modem and a router in every unit, and it's just going to stay there. So then when the resident moves out, that modem or router would just stay there. Or you could do away with the modem router thing, and then you can put in an actual Wi-Fi system, sure, which is, depending on the property, it could be the way to go, because now it's more, you don't have as much equipment, and you're going to have, like I said, access points, more like a hotel, when you were to go into a hotel or a resort. And I tell you, my daughter, we went with her, we live in Greenville, South Carolina. She went and looked at a property to move in. It's 300 some units. I don't want to say the name or the management company, but I got to tell you, it was probably like a class A asset. Really, really nice. Downtown, rents started at about $1,000 a unit for a studio. And I got to tell you, man, it was like a resort. It was beautiful. And they have all of these amenities, and they got Wi-Fi everywhere, and it keeps residents happy. Yeah.
So, it's really interesting because we do have a question about 5G, which I want to get to in a moment. But, you know, I love this conversation because, as a former banker, it's all about revenue, right? It's all
Yep.
about your NOI. And, a lot of people that aren't in business as long as we've been, that's the one thing I love about multifamily. It's really a business, you really have to look at it from a business perspective. And, if you can add a little bit of money to your NOI, and you do that a couple different ways, either you reduce expenses or you provide something that will increase revenue, or both, right? Reduce expenses, increase revenue. The value based on the cap rate in that area, your property will actually go up in value in the eyes of the banker. And this is very important because, if you're looking at an 8 or 9 cap, even a 7 or 8 cap, and you can increase your revenue by $10,000, the value of your building goes up on the books immediately, which means your loan to value goes down. The value when you sell the property goes up. And that's one of the things that's really unique to commercial real estate, and specifically multifamily. So everything you're talking about, Todd, plays right into this, being a good, smart, educated business person with regard to that asset. Because, you talked about 4 different things, right? Those 4 different things. But if all of them add, if they all just add, $1,000 a month, to the NOI, the value of the building goes up significantly depending on the cap rate in the area. So this is, I really want our listeners to understand that what you're talking about is enhancing the asset from a business perspective, because that's why Mike and I and you, Todd, love multifamily. You have that opportunity to do that.
Right. Hey, Carl, let's talk about the 5G. Can we, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. I love technology just as much as I love multifamily. To me, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. So what the listener was asking is, do you have any experience with 5G, and what is that experience?
So me personally, my experience lies in helping owners leverage smart technology if they want to deploy it in their property. And right now, from a cable standpoint, it's all DOCSIS compliant. And so you're talking a modem and a router. It's not 5G yet because it's not here. But the technology is going to switch over. And I would say, within a couple of years, you're gonna see traditional technology go away, and everything is going to be on the internet side. It's going to be 5G or beyond, which is a data speed, right? A data technology, and the traditional cable that we see today, and this is just my crystal ball based on technology and trends that I'm seeing, is going to go away, and it's all going to be streaming. So you're going to see eventually everything is going to either be cloud-based and app-based. So to get your video experience is all going to be based on an app. You're going to download an app. The cable boxes that you see today, the traditional cable boxes, today you have a cable box and you have a modem in your house, right? You got a cable box, if you still have a cable box, and then you have your modem and router. That's all going to be one. You're going to have one hub, and that's going to be your hotspot. But that hotspot, that Wi-Fi hotspot, for your listener who asked the question, that's going to be 5G data enabled. That's not going to be your traditional ISP cable internet delivery, if I'm making sense. It's going to be the equivalent of this, because that's what 5G is. It's data.
Isn't it interesting though?
It's over the air. It's over the air. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though how this has become your life?
Yeah.
Go to the store and leave this at home. See how you feel.
I have to turn around and go back. I don't go.
Right. But that's how the world is. So guys, we're pretty.
I hope that answered the question. If not, I'm sorry.
It did. And she actually said, thank you. She said, very interesting. And thank you. So, hey guys, we're down to about the end here. So Carl, anything you want to chime in on this morning? Anything else? Or
No, I mean, so Todd, are you nationwide? I mean, do you work, if any of our listeners are looking for the services, I mean, are you
Yeah.
nationwide or?
Yeah. We represent clients all over California, New York, Wisconsin, Florida. I mean, you name it, wherever.
Chicago or?
Chicago. Yep.
So how
Anywhere.
can we get a hold of you? I want to put it in the chat right now. What's a good way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So if they look me up on LinkedIn, my profile has all my contact information. I'm sure you can put that in the show notes. But yeah, look me up on LinkedIn. Email me, Thorpe at mduconsultinggroup.com. That's the name of our company. Go to our website, mduconsultinggroup.com. Give me a call on my cell. And I mean this sincerely, guys. Again, you don't know what you don't know. If you just have a question, if you want me to look at a contract for you, I'm not like an attorney, not to slam attorneys because I love attorneys, but I'm not going to charge you an upfront fee or, a retainer or anything like that. I'll give you free advice. Just reach out to me because I want to help you. And if I can give you free advice, I'm a firm believer it all comes back, right?
So Todd, one more time, I'm putting in the chat. What's the email again?
It is Thorpe at mduconsultinggroup.com.
So THORPE
at mduconsultinggroup.com. I know it's a lot. mduconsultinggroup.com.
And it's MB as in Bravo?
D. MD as in dog, U, MDU. So that stands for multi-dwelling unit.
Gotcha. MDU Consulting Group.com. Okay, great. Thanks, Todd.
Yep. And website, just mduconsultinggroup.com.
so, Todd, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Any advice that you would give somebody maybe just venturing into this realm or into the multifamily space for the first time? One key piece of advice that you give people
is instead of not knowing what you don't know, know what you know. In other words, just be a sponge and absorb as much information as you can, because the last thing you want to do is get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Because you will lose out and you'll leave money on the table. So don't just assume.
A lot to be said for that. So one thing I always say is you think, small thinking gets us small results, but big thinking gets us big results.
That's right.
So think outside the box a little bit. Carl, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to offer, I just want to talk a little bit, Mike, about the Multifamily Global Summit 90-day challenge, a 90-day program that we're doing. If anybody's interested, I'm going to put it in the chat. Reach out to Mike and I. This is the type of thing that you'll learn over those 90 days, and you don't have to wait. Listen, I learned something today. I had no idea about this door. I could have been making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars if I knew about that. You know what I'm saying? And, as much experience as I had, how do I find that? Well, you do a program like the 90. Listen, we're charging $2,500 for this thing. I probably, if I would have learned that for that $2,500 investment, I probably could have made $25,000, right? And it's just,
right.
Seriously. I mean, a lot of people don't get that, Mike. I know you've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on coaching. So have I. And people don't get that you get that money back, especially when you're talking about multifamily. And I'm not just pitching it because I'm part of it. I'm pitching it because it's really a mindset. When you understand that you're investing in yourself, you're going to get an idea like Todd just gave us that I could have made $25,000 on. I'm actually pissed off, Todd.
Hey, listen, I
got you riled up, Carl. You're going to be like you're going to go as the Hulk tonight for Halloween.
But hey, listen, $25,000 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, right?
I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I could have, anyway.
Hey, listen, we always, like Todd said, we don't know what we don't know. So now you know, and the next time around, you're going to be even better at it. So
that's right.
Listen, call us if you have questions about the 90-day challenge. Call us if you have questions about cable or internet. Call Todd. And thanks for being here this morning. Todd, thank you for being here. Your information was priceless. Carl, always great to see you on Saturday morning. I enjoy having coffee with you and look forward to next week. Be here. Hey, go to our YouTube page and like this and subscribe to the channel. And we will look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you.
See you guys
Happy
next time.
Halloween. Thank you, guys.